වනජීවී සහ වන සංරක්ෂණ අමාත්‍යාංශයේ ලේකම්තුමා වන සෝමරත්න විධාන පතිරණ මහත්මයාගේද වනජීවී හා වන සම්පත් රාජ්‍ය අමාත්‍යාංශයේ ලේකම් පාලිත ප්‍රනාන්දු මහත්මයාගේද වන සංරක්ෂණ ජෙනරාල් ආචාර්ය KM.A. බණ්ඩාර මහත්මයාගේද ස්කෑම්ප් ව්‍යාපෘතියෙහි අධ්‍යක්ෂ අනුර සතුරුසිංහ මහත්මයාගේද ලෝක බැංකුවේ ශ්‍රී ලංකාව හා මාලදිවයින බාර කළමනාකාර චියෝ කණ්ඩා මහත්මියගේද අමාත්‍යාංශයේ සහ වන සංරක්ෂණ දෙපාර්තමේන්තුවේ ආරාධනාව පිළි අරගෙන මෙම රැස්වීමට සහභාගී වන සෑම දෙනාගේද අවසරයි. ඔබ අද සහභාගී වන්නේ වසර 2021 සිට 2030 කාල වකවානුවට ශ්‍රී ලංකා වන ක්ෂේත්‍ර මහා සැලැස්ම පිළියෙල කිරීම ආරම්භ කිරීම නිමිත්තෙන් පැවැත්වෙන රැස්වීමයි. මෙම වැදගත් කරතවියට වනජීවී සහ වන සංරක්ෂණ අමාත්‍යාංශය තුළින් ලෝක බැංකුවේ පරිසර පද්ධති සංරක්ෂණ හා කළමනාකරණ ව්‍යාපෘතිය නොහොත් ස්කෑම් ව්‍යාපෘතිය වන සංරක්ෂණ දෙපාර්තමේන්තුවට සහාය දක්වනවා. We are gathered here at this meeting, or should I say connected from your respective homes, officers, to initiate the preparation of Sri Lanka's 2021-2030 Forestry Sector Master Plan, supported by Ecosystem Conservation and Management Project of the World Bank, better known as SCAMP. මම SCAMP ව්‍යාපෘතියේ සංනිවේදන අංශය පාරව වැඩ කරන පිලාල් නායකකාර and I overlook the communication work of SCAMP, and I'm glad to be involved in this nationally important event. මෙම උත්සවයට සහභාගී වීම සඳහා ඔබ අපිට දකින විදියට 100 ගානකට වැඩි කට්ටිය ඉන්නවා මේ අවස්ථාවේ. අපේ ආරාධනාව පිළි අරගෙන මෙතනට පැමිණීම ගැන අපි සතුටු වෙනවා වගේම ලොකු දිරිගැන්වීමක් වන සංරක්ෂණ දෙපාර්තමේන්තුවට විශේෂයි. It is encouraging to see that there are over 100 participants and growing, as I understand, attending this event. Other පෞද්ගලික අංශයේ බොහෝ වෘත්තිකයන්, there's very good representation here today from the private sector, many professionals, ප්‍රමුඛ බැංකු, leading banks, සෑම විශ්වවිද්‍යාලයක්ම පාහේ අපේ registration එකට නම් දීලා තිබුණා. Almost every university is presented by many distinguished academics. අදාළ civil සංවිධාන සියල්ලම පාහේ, all of the relevant civil society organizations without exception, එක්සත් ජාතීන්ගේ සංවිධානයට අයත් කාර්යාංශ සහ අනෙකුත් රාජ්‍ය නොවන සංවිධාන, UN and other INGOs as well as many NGOs සහ එමෙන්ම රජයේ අදාළ බොහෝ දෙපාර්තමේන්තු සහ ආයතන as well as many government departments and agencies. එමෙන්ම ලංකාවේ වනාන්තර ගැන සැලකිල්ලක් දක්වන, උනන්දුවක් දක්වන පුරවැසියන්ගේ නියෝජනයකුත් අපිට මෙතනදී තිබෙනවා. It's good to see interested citizens who care about forests in Sri Lanka present here today. ශ්‍රී ලාංකිකයින් වශයෙන් මෙන්ම ගෝලීය පුරවැසියන් හැටියට අපිට වනාන්තර සහ වන සංරක්ෂණය කොතරම් වැදගත්ද කියලා මෙවැනි විශාල කණ්ඩායමකගේ සහභාගීත්වයෙන් තේරුම් ගන්න පුළුවන්. This high number of attendees also shows us that forests and the forestry sector means a lot to us as Sri Lankans as well as global citizens. තවදුරටත් ඔබේ කාලය ගන්නේ නැතිව මම හිටපු වන සංරක්ෂණ ජෙනරාල් සහ වර්තමාන ස්කෑම්ප් ව්‍යාපෘතියෙහි අධ්‍යක්ෂක අනුර සතුරුසිංහ මහත්මයාට මෙම වැඩසටහනට හඳුන්වා දීමක් කරන ලෙස ආරාධනා කරනවා. Without further ado, let me invite former Conservator General of Forests and present Director of the SCAMP, project, Ms. Anura Saturusinghe, to introduce the program. Sir, we invite you to address.
Stuti Tilal, thank you very much. I have a small presentation just to show you the process and the history of planning of forestry sector here in Sri Lanka, but I don't know whether I will be able to share it. If, yeah, I think you can see it, right? The forestry sector, I mean, and for the forestry sector, one thing which is really characteristic is we need the long-term planning because of the long growing periods of trees as well as long gestation periods of investments. And also it links with various other major sectors of the economy. So now we understand that we, especially in the talking about sector and forestry sector planning, we need integrated national planning. So this has been understood by the department and even the Ministry of Forestry for a long time, and then also considering the continuous depletion of our forest cover. For the first time in 1980s, early 80s, with the help of FINIDA and the World Bank, the first forest master plan was developed. Then there was a project called Resources Development Project, so that that funded by the World Bank and FINIDA. So they supported the department and the ministry to develop the first forest master plan, not the forest sector master plan, but forest master plan in 1986. But this faced lots of criticism by them from various parties, like even from the government as well as from the NGOs and the environmental enthusiasts, saying that it was mainly focused on production forestry, the timber harvesting, and none other than the environmental values and the environmental services of the forest. And also the other criticism came because it was sort of done in an untransparent manner without much stakeholder consultation. So some of the advantages of this is it led to done number of studies which were really important for the second master plan, which is called the Forestry Sector Master Plan, published in 1995, together with the National Forestry Policy for 25-year period from 1995 to 2020, which we really use even now. It was really a comprehensive document looking at various aspects of forestry, because it includes not only the forest, but of course the other related sectors like soil conservation, even watershed management, timber industry, and various other things, even the rural economy development, all these things. This is really a comprehensive report. That was again funded by FINIDA and the British ODA and the World Bank under the project called Forestry Sector Development Project. And now we are in the third phase, since from 2021 to 2030, now we are planning to develop the second sector master plan, or the third forestry plan for the country, which funded by the World Bank and under the Ecosystem Conservation and Management Project, as correctly mentioned by Dila. And just looking at the last FSMP order, which is the 1995-2020, it has programs was to implement the National Forestry Policy. It had core programs looking at the conservation aspects and things. Other programs, the second category was called the institutional support programs like policy and various other sectors. And it had identified short, medium, and long-term implementation strategies. And also, the most important thing is it considered partnerships as a basic forestry development strategy. which we are even trying to follow with this new proposed project. And my last slide, I just wanted to present this to see whether you can even judge what were our achievements and what we have not done, because mainly the new policy is the new project plan is developing based on these activities plus new proposals. But now short term means for the first 5 years from 1995 to 2000, and then medium term is from 5 years to 10 years, and then the last long-term strategies included from 15 years and more. And so most of these strategies are being transferred into action, and they are being implemented. But still, there are certain strategies and programs which the department could not implement due to various reasons, like funding constraints, as well as different institutional setups and various other things. So with this, I just wanted to show you the connection between the previous master plan and the proposed one. And because the next presentation done by Mr. Dr. Bandar, the Conservator General of Forestry, will present from here onwards. And the other thing I just wanted to mention is now, within this period, like 1995 forestry policy and the master plan came together, because from time to time there had been forest policies, like policy statements, and then policies even since 1948, there was a policy statement looking at encouraging timber production. So then little by little, and then I mean, if you look at the evolution of forestry policy in Sri Lanka now, for example, in 1970s and especially in 80s, there was a sense of community participation. And then it was a little by little, it has been improving. And then the final policy statement, 3 policy objectives, which we refer as national forestry policy objectives, because it was approved by the Parliament. And then the master plan and the programs in the master plan is really the translation of policy strategies into action. So this time also we are looking at both policy statements as well as the master plan development, and at the end of the policy and the master plan development, we will see that whether we will maintain the same policy statements, or we may have to, I don't know, we may have to change or amend it when and where necessary. So this is up to all with us in this process. So while saying that, thank you very much, and thank you for everyone. We really appreciate, as Ilal mentioned, we really appreciate your presence here, and we also expect you all to be with us for the entire process. We have another 10 months to go. So thank you very much, and බොහොම ස්තුතියි සියලු දෙනාටම. මම හිතන්නේ මම බොහොම කෙටියෙන් මේ සැලසුම් සකස් කිරීමේ ඉතිහාසය සහ අපි මේ දක්කල් ඇවිත් තියෙන දුර ගැන තමයි මම ඉතාම කෙටියෙන් පැහැදිලි කරේ. මොකද 1995 ඉඳලා 2020 දක්වා ආපු ෆොරස්ට් සෙක්ටර් මහා සැලසුම කියන එක තමයි මම හිතන්නේ අපි අපේ තාමත් ආදරයෙන් පරිශීලනය කරන පතක්. මොකද ඒක හුඟක් දේවල් හුඟක් අධ්‍යයනයන් තුලින් ආව සැලසුමක් තමයි තියෙන්නේ. අපි අද බලන්නේ එතන ඉඳලා ඉස්සරහට යන්න. ඉතින් ඒකේ ඔයගොල්ලෝ අපි සියලු දෙනාම දන්නවා කෙටි කාලීන, මධ්‍ය කාලීන සහ දීර්ඝ කාලීන ක්‍රමෝපායන් හඳුනාගෙන තිබුණා. එතකොට මේ ක්‍රමෝපායන් කොයිතරම් දුරට අද කාලයට ගැලපෙනවද? එහෙම නැත්නම් අපි ඒවත් තවදුරටත් වෙනස් කළ යුතුද? ඊට අමතරව අලුත් ක්‍රමෝපායන් අපිට අවශ්‍යද? අපි හඳුනාගත යුතු, අනිවාර්යයෙන්ම හඳුනාගත යුතු වෙනවා. මොකද මේ අපි කතා කරන්නේ 2020 සිට 2030 දක්වා කාලය ඇතුළත සඳහා. ඉතින් මේ සියල්ලම හඳුනාගෙන තමයි අපි ඉදිරි සැලසුම සකස් කිරීමට බලාපොරොත්තු වෙන්නේ. අපේ අමාත්‍යාංශ දෙකේම ලේකම්තුමන්ලාගේ සහ අමාත්‍යතුමන්ලාගේ ආශිර්වාදයත් එක්කලා ඔබ සියලු දෙනාගේම සම්බන්ධතාවය සහ සහයෝගීත්වය අපි බලාපොරොත්තු වෙනවා. මොකද මේක ඉතාමත් වැදගත් වෙන්නේ මේ වන සංරක්ෂණ දෙපාර්තමේන්තුවට හෝ වන ජීවි සංරක්ෂණ දෙපාර්තමේන්තුවට විතරක් නෙමෙයි, විශේෂයෙන් අපේ ජාතියේ සියලුම දෙනාට, විද්‍යාර්ථීන්ට, පර්යේෂකයින්ට, ඊළඟට සාමාන්‍ය මහ ජනතාවට, ඒ වගේම වෙනත් sectors වලට බැංකු වලට ඒ වගේම රාජ්‍ය නොවන සංවිධාන වලට ඒ වගේම අපිට දෙන අනිකුත් ඩෙවලොප්මන්ට් ඒජන්සිස් වලට මොකද මේ සියලු දෙනාටම මගේ එහෙම මම හිතන්නේ අපි බලාපොරොත්තු වෙන විශාල දායකත්වයක් ඒ දායකත්වය සඳහා යන ගමනේ මුල්ම සලකුණ තමයි අපි මේ කතා කරන්නේ. ඉතින් සියලු දෙනාටම බොහොම ස්තුතියි. මම එතනින් නිහඬ වෙනවා. Thank you තිලක්.
Hilal mute කරලා ඉන්නේ. හරි sir, we can stop sharing the screen, Mr. Sathusinga. වන සංරක්ෂණ අංශයේ සැලසුම් හා උපාය මාර්ග ක්‍රියාත්මක කිරීමේදී වන සංරක්ෂණ දෙපාර්තමේන්තුව මුහුණ දෙන අභියෝග ගැන අපට අවබෝධයක් ලබා දීම ගැන වන ක්ෂේත්‍ර මහා සැලැස්ම සකස් කිරීමේදී අතීතයෙන් ඉගෙනගත් පාඩම් පෙන්වා දීම ගැනත් සතුරුසිංහ මහත්මයාට ස්තුතියි. Thank you, Mr. Sathurusinga, for helping us understand the challenges that the Forest Department faces when implementing forestry sector plans and strategies, and for pointing out the shortcomings from which lessons have been learned in the past. And this would help us when moving forward with preparation of the Forestry Sector Master Plan. Also, thank you for clarifying the difference between the National Forest Policy and the Forestry Sector Master Plan, and for introducing this event. Thank you, sir. එමෙන්ම ජාතික වන ප්‍රතිපත්තිය හා ශ්‍රී ලංකා වන ක්ෂේත්‍ර මහා සැලැස්ම අතර වෙනස පැහැදිලි කර දීම ගැන සතුරුසිංහ මහත්මයාට බොහොම ස්තුතියි. මේ අවස්ථාවේදී මා කැමති කියන්න පැමිණ සිටින ඔබට යම් ප්‍රශ්නයක් ඇසීමට තිබේ නම් අපිට කතා කරන අතරින් කාහට ඔබ එම ප්‍රශ්නය යොමු කරනවාද කියා සඳහන් කර ඔය chat bar එකේ ඔබේ ප්‍රශ්නය පුළුවන් තරම් කෙටියෙන් ලියන්න. අපි ප්‍රශ්න Q&A වෙලාවට පැමිණි විට එය අරගෙන ඒට උත්තරයක් දෙන්නට බලාපොරොත්තු වෙනවා. විශේෂයෙන් මෙම සාකච්ඡාවට අදාළ වෙන ප්‍රශ්න අසන ලෙස අපි ඉල්ලා සිටිනවා. If you would like to ask a question, please mention whom you are directing the question to after they speak, and then state your question as short as possible, as concisely as possible in the chat bar. Let me now invite Conservator General of Forests, Dr. K.M.A. Bandara, to present to us the process that the Forest Department aims to adhere to when developing the Forestry Sector Master Plan. අපි දැන් K.M.A. Bandara මැතිතුමාට ආචාර්යතුමාට ඉල්ලා සිටිනවා කතා කරන ලෙස.
Thank you very much to secretaries, country representative for World Bank, project SCAM project director, SCAM staff, representative from World Bank, colleagues from the universities, NGOs, private sector organizations, banks, and ladies and gentlemen. Mr. Sathurusinga has given a brief introduction about the 1995 Master Plan and 1980s Master Plan and 1995 Master Plan, and the progress we have made after the Master Plan introduction. So what I am going to present here today is the new Master Plan development work, the approach and the progress what we have made so far, and what kind of information, what kind of input should we are looking from the all participants and all stakeholders. Right. Mr. Satru Singh has given a brief introduction about the 1995 Master Plan and the progress what we have made. And briefly, I mentioned that the 1995 Master Plan had the three main objectives. One is to conserve the natural forests, and the second one is to expand the forest cover and the productivity of the forest plantations, and to enhance the rural economy or the contribution to the national economy. So the focus was to conserve the remaining natural forest, to conserve the biodiversity, soil and water, and empowering the people and rural communities to manage and protect multiple use forests, and to build a partnership between forest development activities and developing the home gardens and strengthening the forest institution and both the state and the private sectors. The challenges and the lessons we have learned from the 1995 Master Plan, we have, as Mr. Satru Singh correctly mentioned, that we have developed 5-year implementation programs, and we have implemented different forestry projects in the past, and we have achieved a lot from the 1995 Master Plan. And some targets could not be achieved due to various reasons, as Mr. Satru Singh mentioned, that the implementation period was too long to consider the dynamic nature of the resource management. So some of the programs have not implemented due to this reason. And conflicting mandate of different institutions and the interested groups, and participatory management of the natural forest not successful as expected due to a lack of mechanism of benefit sharing, and as Mr. Satru Singh said, mentioned that because of the inadequate costing of the budget, sometimes we have to postpone some of the work we have included in 1995 Master Plan. And now we are in the stage of the end of the 1995 Master Plan, the time period, and Honorable Minister tasked us to prepare a new Forest Sector Master Plan for 2021 to 2030 to reflect the recent changes and the trends. And we are fortunate, and we are very grateful to the World Bank and the SCAM project for funding for this the big task to achieve within a shorter period within less than 12 months' time. In this master plan include that review of the data and the information on the forest sector in the country, and identification of emerging issues and the scenarios, in analysis of the national policies, laws and regulation, and international commitments and obligations, and analysis of the status of implementation of the Forest Sector Master Plan 95 to 2020, the establishment of vision, goals, and targets, and design of new investment programs. The objective of the Forest Sector Master Plan 2021 to 30 will provide a framework to guidance the forest sector management and operational and financial planning for various stakeholders. The new Forestry Sector Master Plan for this 21 to 30 will include, as 1995 Master Plan, multi-phases and the programmatic approach. The strategic level, five-year level investment plans, and the operational plans for lower level operational plans. And in strategic level, that long-term strategic section at macro level, setting the context, vision, targets, approaches, and resources will be included in the strategic level planning. And 5-year implementation plans programs are the most important things. Medium-term tactical section providing more detailed elements. So, and as I mentioned before, that the contribution to the international goals also considered. Contribution contribute the UN SDGs, contribute to the three Rio Convention, the UNFCCC, CBD, UNCCD, and contribute to several other convention frameworks such as Sendai Framework, World Heritage Convention, CITES, HAMSAs, Bond Challenge, UN Decade, etc. And most important, it will align with the six goals of global forest goals of the United Nations Strategic Plan for Forestry 2017 to 2030. Those are the six global forest goals that we will be considered these UN forest global forest goals. Once we have come to the time plan, so we are now the stage of public launching of this Forest Sector Master Plan. We are in September, early September, and it will be followed by this detailed survey with the stakeholders, then consultations, and the first draft investment programs will be prepared by November or the end of this year. And further consultation and public comments, the plan is to get the public approval by in June 2022. So as Mr. Satrusinghe mentioned that it has we are having around 10 months to complete this task. So stakeholder consultation process has different various purposes with different various processes for different purposes. As I mentioned, that online survey is one of the main information gathering work we have planned to do in this month. So in this month, it's already given the online survey link to all stakeholders. So we are willing to get feedback very soon. By this survey, we are trying to collect information such as the gaps and the lessons of the Forest Sector Master Plan 95, and the lessons for the Forest Sector new Forest Sector Master Plan 21 to 30, and the priority interventions. Those are the three main elements we are looking for from this online survey. At the same time, we have identified the working groups to including technical experts from various origins to develop the investment programs. Roughly, we have identified the working groups by now, and we have already informed the working group members for this to work out the investment programs. And the next one is the national workshops, broader stakeholders to present main findings and collect feedback and refine strategic issues such as vision, goals, and objectives, and to develop a theory of change. And online public comments is another thing we are trying to get more feedback from the public to formulate this for this master plan development. And another one is advertising this event in the public newspapers and get the more comments from these stakeholders and the interested parties. And once we come to the approach, this time we are using for this master plan development is the forest landscape approach. Our preliminary consultation indicates that the interest towards adopting the forest landscape management approach for the new master plan development 21 to 30. As I think as almost all forest people know, in that landscape approach is managing multiple land uses in an integrated manner, considering both a natural environment and the human system. It consists of the trees, forest, and forest lands, and the intervention will aim to balance the ecological, social, and economical benefits of forests and trees within the broader patterns of the land use. So basically, for this process, we are using this landscape approach, forest landscape approach. And we have already identified the investment programs at the moment, but with the stakeholder participation and online after the survey and the consultations, sometimes there may be some changes on these investment programs. We have identified, at the moment, we have identified 9 investment programs according to the land use and 5 cross-cutting investment programs. According to the landscape approach, for the forest lands without forest and forest land with degraded forest, we have identified 4 investment programs. One is timber supply over the forest plantations. The other one is natural regeneration, reforestation, enrichment planting for the forest lands without the forest. And the forest lands with the degraded forests, we have identified another investment program as the restoration of the degraded forest and the forest protection, which include law enforcement and other protections such as fire protection, etc. Under the protective or buffer lands, we have identified 2 investment plans. One is mangrove restoration, the other one is watershed protection and erosion control. Under agriculture lands and agriculture plus forest lands without forest, agroforestry, and under the settlements, we have identified 2 investment programs, urban forestry and social forestry. For cost-cutting investment programs includes nature-based tourism, business technologies associated with the forestry, and value-added intermediary processes along the supply chain. Mainly, we are considering this timber technology and the non-timber forest product here, and forest research and communication and capacity building, which is coming under the research, knowledge management, and the communication. And the forest and forest cover inventory and mapping, monitoring, all coming under the forest monitoring. So basically, at the moment, we have identified those investment programs for 9 considering the land use and the 5 investment plans under these cross-cutting programs. So as I mentioned that based on this feedback from the stakeholders and the surveys, sometimes we can make some minor changes, or sometimes maybe major changes in the coming days. Now I'm coming to my final slides. The other things we have to consider for this Forestry Sector Master Plan development is review of the international commitments and the obligations, which will be done by the consultant, and the national policy and law and regulation and national policies, laws and regulation analysis, which is again done by another national consultant, and vision, goals, objectives, and theory of change, and key gaps and lessons of the former Forest Sector Master Plan 1995, and the key recommendation for the new Forestry Master Plan. And the other one is a synthesis of environmental, technical, social, and economic factors affecting the forest sector, stakeholder mapping and institutional arrangement, and financial analysis and investment strategies. So basically, once we are having this, all the things done, we will be able to formulate the Forest Sector Master Plan. Here we have given this link to the forest, the survey, initial survey, which is already sent. Link has been sent, and the deadline for this survey is 15th of September. So I think we will be able to get more. We will be able to give a few more days for the survey, which is the most important information gathering mechanism. මම කෙටියෙන් සිංහලෙන් ප්‍රධානව කිව් කාරණාත් කීපයක් මම සඳහන් කරන්න කැමතියි. එකක් තමයි අපේ 95 මාස්ටර් ප්ලෑන් එකෙන් පස්සේ ඒක අවසාන වෙනවා මේ ගිය අවුරුද්දෙන් අවසාන වුණා. ඒක නිසා තමයි අපි මේ නව මාස්ටර් ප්ලෑන් එකක් හදන්න තියෙන කියලා සතුරුසිංහ මහත්මයා සඳහන් කරපු ආකාරයට 95 මාස්ටර් ප්ලෑන් එක අවුරුදු 25ක් සඳහා දීර්ඝ කාලයක මාස්ටර් ප්ලෑන් එකක්. කාලේ දීර්ඝ නිසාමත් සමහර ඇක්ටිවිටීස් සමහර චේන්ජස් ඒ අතර සිදුවෙන චේන්ජස් එක සමහර ප්‍රෝග්‍රෑම්ස් අපිට ඉම්ප්ලිමන්ට් කරන්න අපහසු වුණා. නමුත් වැඩි ප්‍රමාණයක් අපි 95 ප්‍රෝග්‍රෑම් එකේ මාස්ටර් ප්ලෑන් එකේ කොටස් අපි ඉම්ප්ලිමන්ටේෂන් ප්ලෑන්ස් ලෙවල් එකට ඇවිල්ලා අපි ඉම්ප්ලිමන්ට් කරා. දැන් අපිට අවශ්‍යයි ඉදිරි වර්ෂ සඳහා ඉදිරි අවසර 10 සඳහා මේ මාස්ටර් ප්ලෑන් එක ස්කැම්ප් ව්‍යාපෘතිය නැත්නම් වර්ල්ඩ් බැංක් ව්‍යාපෘතිය මගින් ප්‍රතිපාදන ලබා දෙමින් අපිට මේ මාස්ටර් ප්ලෑන් එක සකස් කරන්න අවස්ථාව ලැබිලා තියෙනවා. ඒක මිලින් අප්‍රෝච් එක විදිහට අපි යොදාගන්නේ ලෑන්ඩ්ස්කේප් අප්‍රෝච් එක සහ මේ සමගම ඉම්ප්ලිමන්ටේෂන් ප්ලෑන් IPs හඳුනාගත්ත අපි වර්ග දෙකක් ලෑන්ඩ්ස්කේප් අප්‍රෝච් එක යටතේ 9ක් සහ ක්‍රොස් කටින්ස් විදිහට 5ක් යටතේ විශේෂයෙන් හඳුනාගෙන තියෙනවා. ඒ අමතරව තෙමැටික් ස්ටඩීස් කීපයක් මගින් අවසාන වශයෙන් මේ මාස්ටර් ප්ලෑන් එක ඩෙවලොප් කරන්න තමයි අදහස් කරන්නේ මේ ඉදිරි මාස 10 ඇතුළත. ඒ සඳහා මූල්‍ය දායකත්වයේ සපයන සහ තාක්ෂණික දායකත්වයේ සපයන ස්කැම්ප් ව්‍යාපෘතියට වර්ල්ඩ් බැංක් එකටත් ස්තුතිය සිදු කිරීම ඉතාමත්ම වැදගත් කියලා මම මේ අවස්ථාවේදී විශ්වාස කරනවා. ඒකම තිලාන් සඳහන් කරපු ආකාරයට ලොකු ක්‍රවුඩ් එකක් අපිට අද එක්රැස් වෙලා තියෙනවා. අපිට මේක හොඳ අවස්ථාවක් වෙනවා ඉදිරියේදී අපි මේ මාස්ටර් ප්ලෑන් එක ඩෙවලොප් කරගන්න සහ ලංකාවේ ෆොරස්ට් එකේ ඉදිරි අනාගතය වෙනුවෙන් කරන හොඳ ආයෝජනයක් විදිහට මම සලකනවා. ඒකම අද රැස් වෙලා සිටින සියලු දෙනාටම මගේ ස්තුතියත් මේ අවස්ථාවේදී ප්‍රකාශ කරන්න ඉතාමත් සතුටුයි. Thank you very much. බොහොම ස්තුතියි.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Bandara, for clearly communicating the process that would be adhered to. We would, and also how you would be preparing the next forestry sector master plan. It is very clear that you intend to be as consultative and as transparent as possible. ඊළඟ වන ශේත්‍ර මහා සැලැස්ම සකස් කිරීමේදී අනුගමනය කරන ක්‍රියාවලිය පැහැදිලිව ප්‍රකාශ කිරීම ගැන ආචාර්ය බණ්ඩාර මහත්මයාට ස්තුතියි. හැකිතාක් දුරට උපදේශාත්මකව සහ විනීතව සකස් කිරීමට ඔබ උත්සාහ කරන බව පැහැදිලි. අපිට මෙම අද රැස්වීමට පැමිණි අයත් මම හිතන්නේ රෙජිස්ටර් වෙච්ච අයත් ඔක්කොම බලනකොට 200 ගානකට වැඩි ඔවුන්වත් සම්බන්ධ කර ගැනීමට අවස්ථාවක් තියෙනවා නම් ඉදිරියේදී සැලකන ලෙස අපි ඉල්ලා සිටිනවා. We have a base now that is over 270 of people who are focused on forestry, and I think many of them are also involved in answering the questionnaire. So it might be good to consider extending this if possible. Next, let me invite General Palita Fernando, Secretary of the Ministry of Wildlife Protection, Adaptation of Safety Measures, including the construction of electric fences and trenches and restoration and forest resource development, to speak to us on the topic of overcoming forestry sector challenges at ground level. Sir, we would like you to address us now.
That interruption. Good morning, everybody.
Yes.
To overcome forest sector challenges at ground level, it's a very difficult subject. It's a very difficult thing to achieve. Now, when you say overcome the challenges at ground level, let me put this under three headings: conservation of forest biodiversity, then the challenge of the climate change, then the supporting the people . protect the forest. Under the first point, the need to achieve significant reduction in the rate of biodiversity loss is a big challenge for the forest today. We have to plan and achieve. We have to set targets and achieve them through the forest department to achieve this significant reduction. Lot of countries in the world, they do have similar objectives. Make sure the rate of biodiversity loss is reduced. In Sri Lanka, large areas have been protected for the conservation of biodiversity. And I hope what we are presenting today, the Forestry Sector Master Plan, is developed and will increase these protective measures. We have good regulations, guidelines that influence the forestry practices, make it more friendly to biodiversity. However, biodiversity is very difficult to measure directly. It is very difficult to measure directly. But we can monitor whether the measures we have taken can achieve objectives and whether it will sufficiently hold the loss of forest biodiversity. In this one, when you consider the forest biodiversity, we have to consider the cultural diversity as well. For instance, the three Mahavali development areas, that is Victoria, Randanigara and Rantembe, there are three electoral districts in provinces come under this. That is Badulla, Korelia and Kandy. The cultural diversity is very high in these three districts. Therefore, we'll have to consider the cultural diversity as well. Then the climate challenge. It's a big challenge today. And we could see few days back, China was very badly affected with floods. Is now beginning to affect everyone. The forests are the major carbon stores. However, forests are also vulnerable to the climate change. It leads to forest degradation. The forest department and the people who are in the authority has a potential role to take to mitigate the effects of the climate change of the forest. I hope the Forestry Sector Master Plan will include those areas as well. The third point is the people who are at the moment living on the jungle. We got to have a separate plan, support these people. Recently, I was having a chat from a person from North Central Province. So he was talking about the gas price hike. yes, in your area you are not affected because you don't use gas. People don't use gas in your area. They say, we don't use, but we go to the jungle and cut the trees. So this type of attitude can lead to degradation of forest. So therefore, we'll have to take action, educate the people in these areas to join us, protect the forest, which will lead a lot of advantages for the human being. I thank you again for inviting me, and I hope and pray that Forestry Sector Master Plan will be a great success. Thank you very much.
Thank you, General Palita Fernando. ලේකම් වනජීවි රැකවරණය අලිවැට හා අගල් ඉදිකිරීම ඇතුළු ආරක්ෂිත වැඩපිළිවෙළවල් හා කැල නැවත වගා කිරීම හා වන සම්පත් සංවර්ධනය රාජ්‍ය අමාත්‍යාංශයේ ලේකම්තුමා අපිට කතා කරුවේ. ඇති ගැටලු කොහොමද निराකරණය කළ යුත්තේ, එමෙන්ම අපේ ඒ වන ක්ෂේත්‍ර මහා සැලැස්ම තුලින් එතුමා බලාපොරොත්තු වන දේ කුමක්ද කියලා. Thank you very much. Now let us, we take great pleasure in inviting the World Bank's country manager for the Maldives and Sri Lanka, Ms. Chio Kanda, to speak to us on the role of forests in green, resilient and inclusive development and pandemic recovery. Thank you, Chio, for accepting our invitation and being here. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Patira. Rana, Secretary of Ministry of Wildlife and Forest Conservation. Mr. Palita Fernando, State Secretary of the State Ministry of Wildlife Protection, Adaptation of Safety Measures. Distinguished speakers and panel members, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning and Ayubon. First, on behalf of the World Bank, I would like to express our sympathy to those impacted by the ongoing pandemic. We will continue to try our best to support the government of Sri Lanka in protecting people's lives and fostering the inclusive growth and recovery. Then I would like to thank the organizers, the Forest Department and Ecosystem Conservation and Master Management Project, ESCAM, for organizing this event to announce preparation of the 2021 to 2030 Forest Sector Master Plan. We are pleased to partner with the government of Sri Lanka in developing a master plan that will give new strategic directions to benefit Sri Lanka. Let me now turn to why we think this is important at this juncture of Sri Lanka's history, where the country is exploring ways to rise above the pandemic, support its poor, and sustain economic growth while protecting the environment. COVID-19 hit hard across the globe, especially the poor and the vulnerable. Years of efforts of poverty reduction and for shared prosperity have suffered their worst setback in decades. We understand that exceptional and urgent national and global actions must tackle these combined negative impacts while countries are adapting to post-pandemic realities. The World Bank Group announced an approach in 2021 to find new solutions to address poverty, inequality, and climate change in our member countries. The approach calls for policies and programs that are sustainable, take a broad-based approach to economic growth without harming the environment or leaving people behind in poverty. We call this green, resilient, and inclusive development, or GRID. Adopting an integrated GRID approach allows us an opportunity to support green, resilient, and inclusive recovery that tackles rising poverty and deepening inequality while addressing both the immediate devastation brought by COVID-19 and the long-term challenge of climate change. It is indeed heartening to see the efforts of the government of Sri Lanka to take a balanced approach to recovery and development. As we heard from the earlier speakers, this Forest Sector Master Plan will build on over 30 years of experience and lessons learned from the previous plans. And it is expected to include new paradigms in managing Sri Lanka's forests, better conserving and restoring forest landscapes, and enhancing human well-being, serving the need of the economy. As you all know, forests of Sri Lanka are unique and globally recognized and valued. They not only provide timber and non-timber resources for mostly rural population, but also support agriculture and farming, provide and regulate water, protect soils and coastlines, businesses and people from erosion and natural disasters. Economically, the gross value added generated by the production of major wood and wood products included in the national account was 212.8 billion Sri Lanka rupees in 2019, which is more than $1 billion US dollars. But if we look at the various natural capital and ecosystem services provided by Sri Lanka's forest, it is big and estimated at 5.6 billion US dollars. We also understand that several million people live near and inside the forest in Sri Lanka and use its resources directly or indirectly. World Bank understands the important role of forests in supporting the rural poor and Sri Lanka's economy, and we fully support development of this new strategy. The ongoing $35 million S-Camp has been supporting the Forest Department and the Department of Wildlife Conservation. And we are going to work hand in hand with the Forest Department and other stakeholders, strategizing and developing sustainable strategies and investment plans for the sector. Developing an effective, realistic master plan and building a consensus around it is critical for the country's development, because restoration and sustainable multiple use of the country's forests bring benefit not only to those who directly use or live around forests, but also to the whole economy. Benefits of the master plan strategies and activities will extend to many sectors and economic activities, such as climate-smart agriculture, nature-based tourism, and health sector, among others. Finally, let me conclude by commending the government's efforts to undertake extensive consultations throughout the process and engage multiple stakeholders such as forestry sector experts, foresters, multidisciplinary professionals, government institutions, civil society organizations, private sector organizations, and the media to develop this 2021 to 2030 Forest Sector Master Plan. Thank you for your attention, and I wish you all the best in the preparation process and look forward to receiving the master plan. All my study.
Thank you, Ms. Chiyokanda, for your very clear presentation on the role of forests, and especially considering the pandemic situation and recovery. Thank you also for explaining the link between the kind of poverty and the economic development and helping us to understand what the World Bank is involved in. වනාන්තරවල කාර්යභාරය පිළිබඳව ඉතා පැහැදිලිව ඉදිරිපත් කිරීම ගැන චියෝකන්දා මහත්මියට අපගේ ධන්‍යතාවය පළ කරනවා. ග්‍රාමීය දරිද්‍රතාවය සහ ශ්‍රී ලංකාවේ ආර්ථික සංවර්ධනය අතර සම්බන්ධය පැහැදිලි කිරීම ගැන ස්තුතියි. දැන් වන විද්‍යා අංශයේ වෙනස්කම් දැකීමට ඇති අවශ්‍යතාවය ගැන කරුණු පැහැදිලි කිරීමට අපි වනජීවි සහ වන සංරක්ෂණ අමාත්‍යාංශයේ ලේකම් සොමරත්න විධානපාතිරන් මහතාට ආරාධනා කර සිටිනවා. ලේකම්තුමනි, ඔබතුමාට කාලය.
World Bank Country Manager Maldives and Sri Lanka Shiokanda Methiniya විශ්වවිද්‍යාල මහාචාර්යවරු ආචාර්යවරු වන සංරක්ෂණ දෙපාර්තමේන්තුවේ අධ්‍යක්ෂ ජනරාල්තුමා මේ ව්‍යාපෘති අධ්‍යක්ෂතුමා ඇතුළු සියලු දෙනාගේම අවසරයි. ඉතාමත්ම වටිනා වූ කාලීන අවශ්‍යතාවයක් සම්පූර්ණ කිරීම සඳහා ලෝක බැංකුව ව්‍යාපෘතිය යටතේ ක්‍රියාත්මක වන මේ ව්‍යාපෘතිය මගින් ලංකාවේ ජාතික වන සැලැස්ම සකස් කිරීම සඳහා ආරම්භක අවස්ථාවේදී මේ රටේ විශ්වවිද්‍යාල සහ අනෙකුත් සියලුම සම්බන්ධිත ප්‍රවීණයන් සමග සාකච්ඡාවක් ආරම්භ කළා. ඒ තුලින් අපේ රටේ ජාතික වැදගත්කමක් ඇති මෙම වන සැලැස්ම සකස් කර ගැනීම සඳහා ආරම්භක අවස්ථාවේදී මේ අවස්ථාවට සහභාගී වීම මා විශේෂ අවස්ථාවක් කොට ගන්නවා. විශේෂයෙන්ම අපේ රටේ ලාංකික ප්‍රජාවගේ අභිවෘද්ධිය තහවුරු කරුණු පිණිස වන සම්පත් සංරක්ෂණය හා සංවර්ධනය කිරීම තමයි වන සංරක්ෂණ දෙපාර්තමේන්තුවේ මූලික මෙහෙවර වෙන්නේ. එහිදී ජෛව විවිධත්වය, පස, ජලය, ඓතිහාසික, සංස්කෘතික හා ආගමික සෞන්දර්යාත්මක වටිනාකම් කෙරෙහි විශේෂ සැලකිල්ලක් දක්වමින් මතු පරපුරේ යහපත වෙනුවෙන් වනාන්තර සංරක්ෂණය කිරීම ප්‍රධාන අරමුණක් වෙනවා. ඒ වගේම ආර්ථික සංවර්ධන ප්‍රතිලාභ සමසේ බෙදියාම කෙරෙහි විශේෂ අවධානය යොමු කරමින් ග්‍රාමීය ජනතාවගේ සුබ සාධනය සහ එම ශ්‍රේෂ්ඨයේ ලැබෙන දායකත්වය ඉහළ නැංවීම තුළින් ජාතික ආර්ථිකය ශක්තිමත් කිරීම අපගේ ප්‍රධාන අරමුණක්. මේම අරමුණු සාක්ෂාත් කර ගැනීම සඳහා අමාත්‍යාංශ දෙකත් දෙපාර්තමේන්තුවත් ඉදිරි දශකයක් තුල ක්‍රියාත්මක කළ යුතු කිරීමට අපේක්ෂා කරමි. ඒ වගේම පසුගිය දශක කිහිපය තුල අනුගමනය කළ විවිධ උපාය මාර්ගයන් හා ක්‍රියාකලාප තුල අපිට උගත හැකි පාඩම් මොනවද? ඒ තුලින් ඉදිරි සැලැස්ම සකස් කිරීමේදී ජාතික අවශ්‍යතාවයක් මේ රටේ මහ ජනතාවගේ ආර්ථික අභිවෘද්ධියක් සත්සත් වන පරිදි මේම සැලැස්ම සකස් කළ යුත්තේ කෙසේද යන පිළිබඳව වියතුන්ගේ සහ අනිකුත් පාරිශ්‍රමික ආයතනවල විශාල කාර්යභාරයක් ලෙසයි මා දකින්නේ. විශේෂයෙන්ම ශ්‍රී ලංකාව ලෝකයේ ඇති වැඩිම ජනගහන ගණත්වයක් රටවල් වලින් එකක් බව අපි සියලු දෙනාම දන්නවා. ඒ හේතුව නිසාම දිනෙන් දින ලංකාවේ සෑම බින් අඟලක්ම විශේෂ වටිනාකමකට ලක් වෙන යුගයකයි අපි ජීවත් වෙන්නේ. ඒ හේතුව නිසාම මේ වනාන්තර රැක ගැනීම අද ජාතික අවශ්‍යතාවයක් වගේම ඒ තුලින් මිනිසුන්ගේ ජීවත් වීමට ඇති අයිතිය තහවුරු කරන වගේම වනය තුල සිටින සතා සිව්පාන්ගේ ජීවන තත්ත්වය ආරක්ෂා කිරීමත් අපි සමාජමය වගකීමක් ලෙසයි අපි දකින්නේ. එම සමාජමය වගකීම ඉෂ්ට කිරීමේදී අපි දැනට පවතින වන වැස්ම පවතින ආකාරයට තවදුරටත් අංගලකින් හෝ වැඩි කර ගන්න අතරම ඒවායේ ආරක්ෂාව, සංරක්ෂණය, කළමනාකරණය බාරව සිටින වන සංරක්ෂණ දෙපාර්තමේන්තුව ඉදිරි දශකයේ තුල මේ ශ්‍රේෂ්ඨයේ සැලසුම් සකස් කිරීම පිළිබඳව අභියෝගාත්මක අවස්ථාවකටයි මුහුණ දී සිටින්නේ. විශේෂයෙන්ම 1995 කාල පරිච්ඡේදය සඳහා ඒ සකස් කළ සැලසුම් ක්‍රියාත්මක වීදී පෙර කිව්ව ආකාරයට ලබාගත් අත්දැකීම, එම සැලසුමට සිදුව ඇති අඩුපාඩු, ඒ සැලසුමේ වර්තමානයේ ක්‍රියාත්මක කිරීමේදී ඇතිවෙන හැකි අභියෝගය, අලුතින් මුණ පා ඇති සමාජ ආර්ථික සමාජීය සංස්කෘතික බලපෑම්, මේ සෑම අංශයක්ම උපයෝගී කරගෙන අපි මේ දශකයේ ඉදිරි දශකයේ සඳහා මේ සැලසුම සකස් කළ යුත්තේ. ඒ සඳහා උපයෝගී කර ගැනීම සඳහා සකස් කරනු ලබන අදාළ ප්‍රතිපත්තිය වර්තමාන නීතිමය රාමුව ආදිය ගැන මෙන්ම රටේ අනාගත ජීවනෝපාය ප්‍රධාන හවුල්කරුවා වන ග්‍රාමීය ජනතාවගේ ජීවන තත්ත්වය උසස් කිරීම සඳහා මේ වන සැලැස්මත් කොතරම් දුරට සාර්ථකව භාවිතා කර හැකිදැයි අපි කල්පනා කළ යුතු වෙනවා. මා දකින ආකාරයට මෙම සැලසුම මූලික පරමාර්ථය විය යුත්තේ කර්මෝපායික දිශානතින් තුලින් ජාතික ප්‍රමුඛතාවය හා ගෝලීය ප්‍රවණතාවලට අනුගත වෙමින් දැනට පවතින හෝ ඉදිරියේදී නිර්මාණය වන නව ප්‍රතිපත්තියෙන් හා ආයතන වල සංරක්ෂණය විශේෂ සැලකිල්ලට භාජනය කළ මින් මේ සැලැස්ම සකස් කළ යුතුයයි මා විශ්වාස කරනවා. ඒකම මේ සකස් කිරීම සඳහා වන සැලැස්ම සකස් කිරීම සඳහා අවශ්‍ය වන පාර්ශවකරුවන් රාශියකගේ අදහස් සහ යෝජනා සහ ඔවුන්ගේ අභිමතාර්ථයන් අපි විශේෂ සැලකිල්ලට ගත යුතුයි මම මේ අවස්ථාවේදී සඳහන් කරන්න කැමතියි. විශේෂයෙන්ම මේ සැලසුම තුළ පහත් සඳහන් ශ්‍රේෂ්ඨයන් කෙරෙහි විශේෂ ප්‍රමුඛතාවයක් දැක්විය යුතුයි මා යෝජනා කරනවා. වනාන්තර භූ දර්ශන ප්‍රතිස්ථාපනය හා තිරිසර කළමනාකරණය, ජෛව විවිධත්වය හා සංරක්ෂණය හා කළමනාකරණය, කෘෂි වන වගාව හා සහභාගීත්ව වන සංරක්ෂණ ප්‍රවේශය, වනාන්තර භූමිය හා එහි ජීවීන්ට ආරක්ෂාව ස්ථිර කිරීම, දේශගුණික විපර්යාස හා ඒවායේ බලපෑම් පාලනය, වනාන්තර ගිනි පාලනය, මාර්ග දෙපස වනවග හා වෙනත් දැව ප්‍රභව වැඩි දියුණු කිරීම තුළින් ස්ථිරසාර දැව නිෂ්පාදනය සාධිත කිරීම, දැව හා වනජ නිෂ්පාදනය පාදක කරගත් මධ්‍ය හා කුඩා පරිමාණයේ ව්‍යවසායකයන් ප්‍රවර්ධනය කිරීම, පෞද්ගලික අංශය සමග මනා සම්බන්ධීකරණයක් පැවැත්වීම, පාරිසරික සංචාර කර්මාන්තය ප්‍රවර්ධනය කිරීම හා නාගරික වනාන්තර හා භූමි අලංකාරකරණය කෙරෙහි විශේෂ අවධානය යොමු වෙයි මා විශ්වාස කරනවා. මේ අමතරව ඉදිරියේදී සියලු දෙනාගේ සහභාගීත්වය, නව ඉලක්ක සහ ජනතාවගේ අපේක්ෂාවන් සරිලන පරිදි අපි මේ සැලැස්මට ඇතුළත් කළ යුතු කාරණා හොඳින් අවබෝධ කරගත යුතු වෙනවා. විශේෂයෙන්ම මේ සියල්ලම ඉදිරි දර්ශකයේ තුල ක්‍රියාත්මක කිරීමට අපේක්ෂා කරන එම සැලැස්ම ප්‍රායෝගික තලයේදී ජනතාවගේ ජීවනෝපාය සංවර්ධනය සමග එකට ගමන් කළ හැකි පරිසරයක් තුල නිර්මාණය කිරීම අපි සියලු දෙනාගේ වගකීමක් වෙනවා. විශේෂයෙන්ම වනාන්තරය ආරක්ෂා කිරීමේදී ඒ ආශ්‍රිතව ජීවත් වන 40% පමණ වන ග්‍රාමීය ජනතාවගේ ජීවනෝපාය කෙරෙහි අපි විශේෂ අවධානයක් යොමු කළ යුතුමයි. ඒ තුලින් පමණයි ඔවුන්ගේ ජීවන තත්ත්වය උසස් කිරීමෙන් පමණයි අපගේ වනය ආරක්ෂා කර ගැනීම සඳහා විශාල පිටුවහලක් ග්‍රාමීය ජනතාවගෙන් අපිට ලබා ගත හැකියි. විශේෂයෙන්ම එම කරුණ කෙරෙහි අවධානය යොමු කිරීමේදී ඔවුන්ගේ සුබ සාධනයේ වගේම ඔවුන්ගේ සක්‍රීය දායකත්වය ඉහළ ප්‍රමුඛතාවයේදී සලකා බැලිය යුතුයි මා යෝජනා කරනවා. විශේෂයෙන්ම මේ අවස්ථාව සඳහා අපිට World Bank country I would like to tell in English language also in the behalf of this our World Bank country manager for Maldives and Sri Lanka, Gio Kanda. I must pressure you have this opportunity to address you in this event, Nutrition Development Forestry Plan, Master Plan for 2021 and 2030. As we all know, Sri Lanka, one of the countries with the highest population density in the world. According to the demand for land, Sri Lanka has increased over the year. This and others deforestation have contributed to the developing forest resource and services in Sri Lanka. Forest Department of Sri Lanka conservation, protection and management of the forest in country has initiated preparation this master plan for in decade. The Forest Sector Master Plan proposed development objective is identify strategic direction and facilitate of the implementation of the existing law and national forest policies. Institutional and investment program, the Forest Sector of Sri Lanka, while considering the current trend and the new Forestry Master Plan, the period of 2021 and 2030 would be developed with the input of all the main stakeholders. I would aim to balance of these for the people with those of the nature. Therefore, the Forestry Sector Master Plan is expected to promote the preservation of the forest landscape and their sustainable management, diversity and conservation and forest management, social and agro forestry, and protective and disaster risk forest management, and climate change, enhancing the forest fire protection, sustainable timber supply and through the plant including roadside and tree plantation, small and medium enterprises based on timber and forest products, private partnership, nature-based tourism, urban forest and landscaping. I sincerely hope that it would lead our forestry sector to the expected standard. My special thanks goes to the SCAM project for the of the World Bank for its financial contribution on this master plan preparation. I highly appreciate it. Present of the this event, the World Bank country representative Chivo Anda and other staff of the World Bank members, and especially I thanks State Secretary General Palita Fernando and all the Director General Forest and other distinguished guests. Thank you very much for this special occasion for participating in our future expectation. Thank you very much.
Secretary Somaratna, thank you very much for explaining to us the need for change in the forestry sector and the long-term vision for the forestry sector, and your expectations of the forestry sector master plan. Now we have come to the Q&A time. Then අපි ප්‍රශ්නෝත්තර කාලයට පැමිණ සිටිනවා. අපගේ මඩුල්ලේ සිටින්නේ වන සංරක්ෂණ ජෙනරාල් ආචාර්ය කේ.මේ. බණ්ඩාර මහත්මයා, ලෝක බැංකුවේ ස්කැම්ප් ව්‍යාපෘතියෙහි වැඩ බලන ඇන්ඩ්‍රු සැකරෙන්කා මහත්මයා, ස්කැම්ප් ව්‍යාපෘතියෙහි අධ්‍යක්ෂක අනුර සතුරුසිංහ මහත්මයා සහ වන ශේෂ්ත්‍ර මහා සැලැස්ම සකස් කිරීමේ මූලික උපදේශක ඇලෙක්සිස් කෝබ්ලින් මහත්මයා. අපි අසා තිබෙන ප්‍රශ්න දිහා බලනකොට අපිට ඇත්තටම ප්‍රශ්නත් වලට වඩා බොහෝ හොඳ උපදෙස් ලැබී තිබෙනවා. අපි ඒ දෙස බලනකොට අපිට පෙනෙන්නේ ප්‍රශ්නයක් අසලා තියෙනවා Professor Cyril Vijayasundara අතරම ප්‍රශ්නයකටත් වැඩි උපදෙසක් හැටියට අපිට ගන්න පුළුවන්. මම කියවා සිටින්නම්. එසේ නැත්නම් අපි ඔබතුමාට අවස්ථාව දෙන්නම් කරුණාකරලා අපිට කතා කරන ලෙස.
Thank you very much, Tilal. What I mentioned in the chat box was that now we have to increase the forest cover. That is one of the the expectations and also one of the objectives and a future plan, I guess. Now, the current the forest coverage is, I think it's about 29.7%, but the plan is to make it to 32%. That's the plan of the government, and we have to increase the forest cover by maybe by the restoration of degraded lands, and also maybe planting new forests in new areas. But anyway, so we have to increase the forest cover. So one of the options is planting suitable trees in degraded area, or enriching those degraded areas by planting trees, and also planting new species in barren lands. That may be the two things. But then I suggest, if possible, if you can use this restoration method called assisted natural regeneration, whereby you promote the natural seedlings to come up by removing the weedy competitive species. There are very good examples in Sri Lanka also. This is one way. I'm not saying that that should be the only way, but that can also be taken into consideration, because it's the nature that can decide what to come up and the most appropriate thing. Now, according to Professor Gunathilaka and Ashton, and I think that there's a paper where they recognize several ecological, floristic regions. They are not climatic zones, so ecological, any other type of region, but they are regions where we find characteristic, unique floral elements. So, although although wet zone is just considered as just one climatic zone, within the wet zone itself, there are several floristic regions. So, when you plant, we should always try to select plants that are unique or that are peculiar to that particular floristic region. So, if you allow the nature to select the species just by promoting the emergence of natural seedlings, I think you are doing the justice. If you select plants for the reforestation, you are bound to select plants that are available in the nurseries. Now we can see a very common practice of planting bulu trees, mee trees, and kubu trees, and also all these common trees. In where there are so many tree planting programs. What they do is they just select those things that are available. But if you, I know the forest department is into it. We should give fuller support for that particular restoration method as well, the assisted natural regeneration. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Vijayasundara, for giving suggestions. I think this will be noted down. Let me also now go to a question which has been asked by, I'm sorry, the salutation is not there, Anila Dias Bandarnayaka. The question I would like to pose it to, let's pose it to Dr. Bandara. How will the Forestry Master Plan ensure consistency with other decisions made by government, President, PM, ministers in other sectors, such as agriculture, and the recent ad hoc circular releasing lands for various development activities, authority given to non-forestry sector players, example, divisional secretariats, etc. If inconsistent, which will prevail? Dr. Bandara, over to you.
Okay, thank you, Tilan, and thank you. This is one of the alarming questions I think everybody is worrying about. The first part of the question is asking about the we are using different kind of land use patterns for the conservation of forests. So that will be addressed through the Forest Sector Master Plan, which is going to develop in the recent time. For example, for agriculture, when we are talking about including agriculture lands, so we have identified some agroforestry or community forestry program with agriculture. But the main question from her question is the different circulars. So it is Basically, the idea of this circular, there are two circulars. In one is 1/2020, which was done by the Ministry of Ministry of Wildlife and Forest Conservation in 2020. So what it tells us that to hand over the developed lands or the non-forest lands to the divisional secretariat. So which is, basically the idea is to hand over the lands. It is for the for different development processes. So that is it's not a big issue for the forests. So forest department and the wildlife conservation department will protect or the conserve the natural forests in that according to that circular. And the second one also, it is also, the second one came from the land ministry. Also the similar circular that it is also telling about the hand the non-forest lands to the government agents. So basically there are similarities between those two circulars. But we are having the discussions with the land ministry, and they also agreed that and they have the forest lands has to be protected, and so still we are having the discussion. So I think still the forest department is conserving or protecting those lands, forest lands under the forest ordinance. So and another thing is that our Forest Sector Master Plan Development Program itself having these working groups. So Forest Sector Master Plan Development process also can help to solve the issue. So basically, that is the answer I can give you in this regard. So the Forest Sector Master Plan process, that the stakeholders or the people who are participating for this master plan development also can help and can contribute to solve this problem. I guess it's not. I think at the moment the forest department is protecting the all forests under the forest department purview. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Bandara, for your response, especially talking about a very contentious topic. Next, I would like to ask, there is a comment by Professor Hemanti Ranasinghe. Professor, if you like to, you can have the floor to discuss your thoughts.
Yes, can you hear me?
We can hear you, but we cannot see you, but that's fine.
Yes. Actually, I just want to tell, because in the presentation of Mr. Bandara, Dr. Bandara also, it was very much reiterated that we need to adhere to the international commitments and also the sustainable development goals in regard to forestry in the preparation of the forestry, this new master plan, which is well and good. So since, you know, all the stakeholders or the relevant stakeholders from the state as well as the implementing agencies are here, and also the interested personnel, I really would like to, you know, get more detail about this, because Mr. Bandara just replied to a comment that the forest department is presently conserving even the state forest, despite the circular. And the circular, of course, specifically says that, you know, the land which is really not forest. But then there's a difference between forest and other state forests, because I mean, there are shrublands which are really habitats for animals, the elephants, as we all know, and not only elephants, but to keep the in nature's balance. And that is why it has been conserved or protected or managed by the forest department. So I think this venturing into this master plan for the next up to 2030 is very good, but then we have to sort things out at the very onset, because there could not be any conflicting arrangements, conflicting policies or programs or sudden decisions. I mean, if it is the case, then all this, the entire planning process will be futile, and the money spent also will be futile. So we have to, I mean, we really understand as a country that, the country is facing a very grave situation socio-economically, but it is very important to keep our nature and also the natural capital also, as we really understand, and also the master planning process is also based on the landscape approach. So I think we really at the very onset sort things out and say, okay, this is for protection and this is for release. I mean, the in-between thing which is very gray and unclear, which really has aroused many apprehensions nationwide, should really be sorted out before we venture into the master plan. So that is really my my suggestion to you, because why I'm saying is that, and I was a consultant for UNDP recently to prepare the NDCs in forestry, and one NDC was that to increase the forest cover to 32% from 29% by 2030. But unfortunately, I mean, the forest department is not in a situation to do that because they don't have enough land for that. So I think we have really, as a country, given a commitment to the UNFCCC, and we have to really adhere to that. We really have to respect that. So that is my honest view. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you. Thank you very much for bringing forward your concern and also talking to us about the realities that Sri Lanka is facing. There is a question from, I believe it's Dr. Nishanti Pereira. Sorry, the salutation is not there. And let's direct this to Mr. Satru Singha. As per the forest ordinance, can I ask Nishanti Pereira if you would like to ask the question yourself, or shall I read it out? Okay, let me read it out. As per the forest ordinance, forest means all land at the disposal of the state. I'm not sure whether this definition has been changed. Looked at the 2009 amendment and did not find any change. Therefore, first of all, are we really clear what forest means in Sri Lankan context? Mr. Satru Singha, over to you.
Thank you, Tilal, and thank you for the question. Yes, I think we are not talking about the forest itself here, because we are talking about the forestry sector, which includes even the trees outside forests, home gardens, and like various roadside plantings and other things. So, and by definition, yes, it has not changed yet. But of course, I mean, we are focusing on sort of a wider angle. I'm talking from the FSMP, Forestry Sector Master Plan point of view. So we are looking at sort of a wider space. Like, we are not confined to the forest land, but of course we are looking at the timber production and even the forest ecosystem services and the home gardens, and also the rural economy and various other things. So for this purpose, still I guess the definition is available because it's a sort of a legal definition, but still the focus is more and the scope is more wider. Thank you.
Thank you. There is a question that I'd like to, that has been directed to Mr. Andrew Zakarenka. What are the transformational impacts of SCAM? Andrew, to you.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here, and I really like this forum and this discussion. So thank you for organizing this event. Directly to answer this question. I see that the S-Camp as a project has created opportunities for the Forest Department and Department of Wildlife Conservation to really, try and test those approaches that would not be able to test with budget finance from the government. So, for example, the landscape planning and management is one of these transformational activities that the S-Camp has piloted successfully and now is trying to embed into the government institutions. Another transformational activity that has been supported by this project is human-elephant conflict resolution measures. If just to say briefly, it's the shift in the paradigm from fencing the forests and national parks to fencing the villages, protecting the villages and the crops. It's kind of simple concept, but it takes time to realize the benefits of it, and that's another transformational thing that the project is piloting and implemented. And then we should not discount those capacity building activities and construction activities that the project is financing for laying out foundation for the cadre of forest and wildlife professionals, those academia buildings that are being constructed by the project. And of course, looking forward, even preparation of this sectoral strategy for the next 10 years. That's also, significant contribution that the project could get done in the next few months. I'll stop here. Thank you. And I'm sorry, I'm sure I've missed many other things. Oh,
thank you. Thank you very much, Andrew, for your response. There is a question from the head of legal environmental of Environment Foundation, Ms. Bhagya Wickramasinghe. I'd like to direct this to Mr. Alexis Coblin. I would like to know what the stakeholder consultation process is. The process set out does not allow room for active participation in the process of preparing the plan. Can I know whether there would be consultations and meetings after completing the survey with those who wish to submit further comments? Alexis?
Yeah, thanks, Gilad. I hope you can all hear me. So thanks for the question. But first of all, let me introduce myself. I think it's important for everybody to understand who I am and who I will be in the process.
Yes,
right? So I will basically, I'm the consultant who will be leading the development of the new Forestry Sector Master Plan for the next 10 months. So yeah, looking at the participants, I know most of you, I hope you remember me. I was the Chief Technical Advisor for the UN RED National Program in Sri Lanka. And one of the main achievements of that program was the development of the National RED Plus strategy. So it's a national level strategy document. So the approach, I'm referring to that because the consultation process during that time was, I think, recognized as a good one in the country. So we are trying to repeat what we've done in the past and repeat this strong consultative process. So what I can say, the details I can give you on the FSMP development is, okay, so there are several levels of consultations. The first one is of course the survey. Those who have already responded to the survey, so far we had 30 responses, which is good, but still not enough. I hope with today's event we'll have more. It's a very comprehensive survey. It covers many issues that have been discussed actually in the chat today, other issues. So it's really a platform to provide the kind of feedback that you're already providing in the chat. So please go open the link and take a few minutes, maybe 15 to 20 minutes to respond to the survey. That's the first one. Then it was mentioned there will be different stakeholder groups set up for helping developing the investment program. So the list of, well, let's say the preliminary list of investment programs has been presented by Dr. Bandara, and for each of them, we will establish working groups. So working groups with members coming from the government, from the civil society, from the private sector, from academic universities, different stakeholders. So, and those groups will meet quite frequently, and their objective will be to discuss the content of the investment programs and develop them, basically. So going back to the first comment from Dr. Cyril, yeah, discussion on the need for ANR or other techniques will be discussed, definitely, and the platform for that will be the working groups. So that's the second level. A third level of consultations will be national workshops. In the plan that we have, we've planned for two, let's say, big events, two national workshops. The first one will be there somewhere in November to share the findings of the survey, especially the gaps, lessons of the former master plan, and to share and discuss the preliminary draft of investment programs. By that time, we would have some content for the investment programs, and that would be a time that this will be discussed with broader stakeholders as today. And the second big workshop will be to shape the vision, the goals, the objectives, and then discuss a theory of change for the master plan, and this will happen maybe somewhere in January next year. And finally, the last level of consultation will be the public comments period. We've planned that for April, and as we did for the NREFAB, we hope to open the final draft of the FSMP for 1 month. So that will be an online consultation for 1 month in April next year. Thanks, Dylan.
Thank you, Alexis. Coming with that same question, there's another question coming. Can we as an organization provide collective comments in the form of a report rather than through an online survey?
Yes, definitely. I think you have emails, details of different people in the SCAM team in the forest department. So yeah, any format will be considered. Yeah. If you prefer to submit a report, that's fine.
There's a question, can we include, this is actually from Samara Kuhn. I'd like to present this to Dr. Bandara, or maybe Alexis, you might, since you're now answering this. Can we include a gap analysis of the forest and wildlife protected area networks and a strategy to fill the gaps as a collaborative plan? Together with the Department of Wildlife Conservation. Is that possible, Alexis? That's a question that is.
Well, I'm not sure I'm the best suited to answer the question. I guess it's more a question for the SCAM and the Forest Department who are funding this activity. I think the scope, I think it's related to the scope of the work. I think to really clarify what we are doing here is we are developing a new Forestry Sector Master Plan. There will be needs for many satellite assessments or research or gap analysis that we won't have the time and the resources to implement in the coming 10 months. But so the quick answer would be no, but there is never no in an answer. There are always solutions. I think this kind of assessment could be included in the FSMP itself. And there won't be only one assessment, I guess. So this is an interesting study to be conducted, but there will be several other assessments that will come up out of the discussion. So will definitely be included in the FSMP. But maybe Forest Department and or SCAM have a different view. Sorry.
Thank you. There is another question by Anila Dias Bandaranayaka. I'd like to present it to either Mr. Satrusingha or Dr. Bandara. Have all Forest Department areas been surveyed in collaboration with the Survey Department within the past 5 years? Does Sri Lanka have such survey maps for all areas that come within this master plan? If not, is having accurate maps of these areas a priority? Dr. Bandara or Mr. Satrusingha?
I think it should go to Dr. Bandara because he's having the updated information. But I know, I mean, the entire also has not been surveyed yet. So that is why we have the category called this proposed forest reserves. But I think the best person to answer this question is Dr. Bandara.
Okay, thank you, Tilan and Mr. Satrusingha. Yes, still we have to survey around 500,000 hectares to be surveyed. It is in the process, so we will be able to survey those lands very quickly by the survey department. So.
Okay. Thank you. There is another question. Can I, Dr. Bandara, have you completed your answer? I'm sorry.
Yes, yes.
Okay, thank you very much. There is a question which I'd like to direct to Mr. Alexis Coblin. It's because it's about engagement. Does the plan have a component for stakeholder engagement? This is from Svoshita. A component for stakeholder engagement which with identified elements to their contributions and roles. I'm checking with regard to youth, private sector and CBOs, etc. It was mentioned that there would be community forests as a focus. Does this get elaborated into the process of involvement, etc.?
Yeah, well, quick answer is yes, definitely. We have to include role of different stakeholders and a kind of strategy for stakeholder engagement. So there will be a specific section of the master plan on that. And of course, under each investment programs, there will be some strategies, actions, how to involve stakeholders into the activities. So yeah, that will be covered definitely. And since I have the mic, actually, I'd like to answer a similar question and about sustainable finance and how would that be approached in the documents. So it's a yes again. I will definitely have a separate section, but since it has been identified already as a major issue in the former FSMP, that will be addressed. And there are, well, we are already thinking about different financial options. Some people mentioned climate finance. That's definitely one that will be explored. Well, others mentioned private investment, public-private partnerships. That's something else. We will, of course, look at the national budgets. We'll look at donor budget. Well, there will be several ideas to explore in this section. So yes, that will make it into the final. Thanks.
There's a comment by Professor Mayuri Vijayasinghe. If Professor Mayuri Vijayasinghe wishes to address us about increasing the forests and her thoughts on it, floor is to you, Professor Mayuri.
Thank you, Tilan. Yes, I think this was addressed previously. This was answered previously for another comment raised by another participant. this back again comes to the contradictory mandates in different government institutions. So I would recommend that for any activity that there will be joint consultation with different stakeholder groups, not only the general public, academia, but specifically between the line agencies that have some say in that area. Because much of the time, although the forest department means to protect a particular forest patch, maybe another institution would have other objectives. So I have recommended that there be more coordination and joint efforts. And also I had put in, Tilan, may I also comment on another thing that I had put in the chat box?
Please do, please do.
Yeah, so what I had said is, restoring or replantation is very good. However, this you can't, get back a forest in the short term. So what is more important is to try and protect the remnant forest patches, however small, as soon as we can, and then of course at the same time trying to reforest new areas, as I think Dr. Cyril Vijayasundara pointed out, with native species, etc., is good. But the prime focus, in my view, should be to protect all the remnant patches of natural forests as soon as possible. And also there's some confusion between tree cover. Increasing tree cover does not necessarily mean that we are, conserving a forest. Tree cover can mean even a rubber plantation or forest plantations. Maybe all of that comes under the forestry sector. But in terms of biodiversity and ecological services, more emphasis should be placed on increasing forest cover and not merely tree cover. Over to you, Tila. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. We are coming to the end of our session. We have we need to close up by 12:30. There is a question, actually more like a comment also from Danushka. The objectives of the landscape types in the two different departments, forest and wildlife. Forest department, it's mostly about forestry. In the wildlife department, it's more about grazing areas. As a unit inside the forest wildlife also needs to sustain, so restoration only should be considered. Are we having a proper consideration on the two departments' objectives when preparing the Forestry Sector Master Plan? Can I ask Dr. Bandara to kindly answer that question?
Okay, thank you, Tilar. That yes, both departments are actually when you are talking about the conservation, they both are both departments are considering the conservation of the biodiversity in terms of the animal or the flora or fauna. Both diversity conservation we are considering that thing. But in the wildlife department, so they are having the different approach for their parks. In their parks management, I think that the answer should be actually given by the wildlife department. For park management, they are having different strategies. When forest department, actually we as a forest department, we are mainly concerned about the conservation of biodiversity, soil and water. Those are the main things we are considering when you are conserving the natural forests. As Professor Meyer mentioned, that we also very keen about the forest, and not just the forest cover. Basically, what we are thinking about the conservation of the biodiversity, water, and the soil conservation. So those are the things we are considering when you are conserving the natural forests. I think I have given some clarification about that issue.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Bandara. I'd just like to ask if there are any further comments from Mrs. Satru Singh also.
Yes, thank you, Tilal. Just to add to something what Dr. Bandara said and to comment on what Professor Mayuru mentioned, because now we really understand this importance of the coordination among various agencies, because this has been happening for the decades. And this is why now we are trying to promote this landscape approach, where most of the other agencies are involved in planning in a particular landscape. So we have successfully completed one for the dry zone, and we are looking at the wet zone Singharaj complex, where all other agencies like the lands, agriculture, state sector, and various other stakeholders are come together at various levels, like the divisional secretariat level, even GN level, and up to the district level, and come together and make the plan. Now, we have presented this to the National Planning Department, and now we are trying to institutionalize this plan together, having the major focus on conservation and trying to identify other activities of the other departments to focus on this particular conservation aspect. So this is something, as Andrew mentioned earlier, this is some sort of a transforming thing we successfully implemented within the project. So we are planning to do that. Plus, the other thing is now actually the project, from the project point of view, we are really looking at the habitat, not not really the trees and planting trees and on things. We are trying to enrich the habitat. It is for trees and the animals. So for the timber production point of view, we have to go for the timber production and plantations. But when we are looking at the national forest, I think we have to, as Professor Mayur and others clearly mentioned, we have to look at the habitat management. So for that, I think two departments have to work together and prepare management plans accordingly and implement. It should be a sort of a joint venture within the two departments and with the inputs of the other researchers and academics. So I think this would happen, or at least there should be a proposal in the proposed master plan to work in together, not only with the two departments, but of course with other stakeholders. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Satru Singh. There is also a question by Dr. Nalaka Gikianage about the use of technology, and thank you, Professor Gunatilaka, for highlighting it. We'd like to ask Dr. Nalaka Gikianage to kindly share your thoughts with us, and also if there is any question specifically to kindly ask.
Thank you for the time. Actually, my question is towards Dr. Bandara and Mr. Satsura Singh. The change of technology and the innovation has been enormous since the 19th, where we have been using the old Forestry Sector Master Plan. And I think this calls for an extensive adoption of new technology for the forest conservation and protection. And this should be another, I suggest actually this could be another cross-cutting investment program to empower the departments particularly and the other stakeholders to enhance the forest protection through new technology. My second suggestion is as a part of this process, I would appreciate actually if you can call for policy options that I didn't see much in the already circulated questionnaire, because most of us, we have been doing a lot of research, and so we can suggest some kind of policy options or policy briefs, not giving too much detail and based on scientific evidence. So that can eventually be considered. Maybe some of them may go into the new policy. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Dikianage, for sharing your thoughts. And also that answer, is there a, can we please have an answer to that from?
Okay, thank you, Nalaka. That's really very good concern or the input for the new forest master plan. Actually, we have included in the as Nalaka mentioned that we have included in the forest technology. So actually, we had a brief discussion about that this with the department officers. And especially Alexis has mentioned that the new technologies are coming in, and so the universities and the private sector sometimes they can involve with the forest department and the forest institution to use those new for other income generation purposes like ecotourism activities, those sort of purposes. So we that part in our forest sector master plan development process. So yes, please, Nalaka, I know personally you are really a technological person and you are using a lot of new technologies in your research programs also. So we are very much into that, and we will be we are looking your input in when the forest sector master plan is progressing in the future. And your the other concern was about the research findings, inclusion of the research findings in the preparation process. Yes, definitely we have to incorporate all those important research findings in the master plan preparation process. So definitely you will be a very good person, and not only you. I mean, there are a lot of academia personnel in the universities can join for these working groups and consultation process and enrich the development process in the, even though this is a shorter time span, but I think today crowd also justifying or the evidence that definitely your thoughts and your inputs will be incorporated in this development process. So thank you again, very valuable comment.
Thank you, Doctor. There is a question, very short question from Professor Nimal Gunatilaka. He asks, is it possible to get the involvement of the Ministry of Lands and Mahaveli? I believe it was not mentioned in your PowerPoint, Dr. Bandara. Would you be able to answer that?
Bilan, can you repeat that question again?
Is it yes?
Part of the question.
Professor Nimal Gunatilaka is asking, is it possible to get the involvement of the Ministry of Lands and Mahaveli also?
Yes, definitely. Definitely that we will need to get their input also in the planning processes. I think, I don't know whether we have missed that part in the process. No problem. Actually, it's a good input.
Thank you. There's also a question, I think, which is, I don't know whether it's something that can be answered right now. The question asked from, I believe this is Professor Pushpa Kumara. This Forestry Sector Master Plan focus, will it be on a landscape approach? Can I ask Alexis possibly to answer this at this point?
Yeah, okay, thanks. Yeah, exactly. That's the, well, there was a previous question about the transformative outcome of the SCAN. I think this is one of them, right? This was tested, discussed during the SCAN project, this landscape approach. As Mr. Anora said, 2 landscape management plans have been developed. And then, yeah, for the Forest Department decided that this could be the way forward for the new FSMP. So that's very transformative for Sri Lanka. That's new. That's new in the world, I would say. So yeah, that would be the approach taken in the project. And there is a related question from Niamali Palevata. So I don't want to get her frustrated by not answering the question. I see that she's asking again for an answer. What might be the scientific basis of landscape selection for this new FSMP? Yeah, I think that's the relevant question. What will be the landscapes in the country? Nobody has the answer right now. This should be answered during the process. I think, yeah, more than that, in the FSMP, there should be a description of the final forest landscapes in Sri Lanka. So yeah, that's a question that will be answered in the next 10 months. Yeah.
Okay, and then there is a question. Actually, it's a comment from Dr. Palewata, Professor Nimmali Palewata. Professor, would you like to ask a specific question if you have, or a specific comment at this point?
Thank you. I think time is going fast. Alexis, thank you for answering that. Well, okay, let's not take too much time, but now I have forgotten what that original question was because there were so many. Could you just read out? Yeah. Yes, Alexis, go ahead. Alexis?
All right.
You can't hear me? Hello?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hello?
Okay, no,
hear me?
Yeah, I could hear you, but I could not unmute myself. So, and yeah, so your question, Mali, was about how nature-based tourism and also supply chain analysis of NTFPs is going to be developed during the FSMP. So yeah, as you noted, those are two of the investment programs that have been identified. One looking at ecotourism, nature-based tourism, and the other one at value chain, basically developing added value chain in the landscape. So NTFP is one option. So yeah, this again, this will be the purpose of this working groups. Developing the strategy for the investment programs will be the purpose of the working group. So yeah, I hope you can volunteer to be member of these two working groups if you have ideas on that. Yeah, that's my quick answer. I think this was your question. Well, you asked about.
Let me kindly ask each of the panelists to give a few comments before we close up about the Forestry Master Plan and their expectation of it and their plans, as it were, their intentions moving forward. Can I first ask Mr. Andrew Zakarenka to kindly give us your thoughts?
Very much. I'll be short. I basically would like to say that this is a really good development, and I hope that this process will allow to formulate a really realistic and doable plan and activities that will be implemented. And I appreciate everybody's suggestions proposed here. So yeah, that's all from me at this point. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Especially for the leadership of Dr. Bandara and the Forest Department in this process. Thank you.
Thank you. Can we now ask Mr. Alexis Coblin if you would like to have a few closing remarks?
Yeah. Can you hear me, Tilo?
Can hear you.
Okay. Yeah, closing remarks. No, just to say thanks to every participant. I think that's I mean, having participated in so many virtual or online events, it's not every time that you see an active chat like that. So I'm impressed, and I really appreciate receiving all the comments. Final comment from my side is let's get prepared for the intense 10 months ahead of us. We'll have several occasions to discuss and meet again on this, so I'm really looking forward to that. And yeah, final is again on the survey. Please, if you don't have, we can put the link of the survey in the chat. Please have a look at it. No need to answer each and every question, but that would be a very, very good tool to receive your comments again. So thank you very much. Have a good day.
All right. Thank you, Alexis. I think in response to the survey, I believe some of the participants here may not have actually got it. We will make sure that every participant who came would get the survey, and I believe there is a deadline for responding, which was the 15th of September. So kindly, as much as you are involved in participating, I think the follow-up would be for you to become a real stakeholder of this process by giving us your thoughts moving forward. May I ask Mr. Satrusingha if he would like to give any parting comments?
I think we really had a very good consultation. This is the first one, because I really believe in this the strong consultations and strong stakeholder participation will direct us in the clear path and the right path towards the next decades. And also, I strongly believe that, I mean, right now, even I understand that the forestry sector is facing a lot of challenges. So I think we can look these challenges in a positive manner and try to take and develop the opportunities out of all these challenges, and incorporating those challenges in the proposed FSMP. So this is a good opportunity for everyone, and each and every stakeholders to look into these challenges and convert those into the opportunities and include in our proposed master plan. And also one thing we should not forget is the rural economy development, because right now we know it is really important to improve the rural economy. I mean, without which I don't think we can plan for and ensure the conservation of our natural ecosystems in the future. So I think we have to have more focus on that, plus the climate change impacts, as well as the habitat management, which are really, really important, which were not really included in the previous master plan, because they were not actually, those were not the issues or the challenges before during the last two or three decades. So with that, I think I have a very good. I think we have very good leadership, and I think as many others say, especially Andrew and Alexi mentioned about the partnership and the coordination. So this is really, really encouraging. So let's. I would like to invite all the stakeholders from different disciplines to work with us and to make this a reality by May or June next year. Thank you.
Yes, hello. Sorry, I had a power cut at this point, and would like to ask Dr. Bandara now to comment. And also, as we have not had the time to actually answer a lot of the questions, but the ones that have been pointed at people, we have taken and answered. And therefore, we will definitely put these comments to the team that is working on the Forestry Sector Master Plan. And also, as we mentioned, send out the questionnaire to each and everyone who participated here. And over to you, Dr. Bandara, to give the final, to share your final thoughts.
Okay, thank you, Tidal. I think you can hear me. Okay.
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. Firstly, I would like to thank all the participants who really made a lot of comments for this initial work, initial launching work, and I think there will be a lot of comments and inputs for the sector master plan development in the future. As Mr. Satrusingha mentioned, that the coming the next 10 years will be, I think the forest sector also will be affected by the, as the other sectors like agriculture and other sectors because of this climate change. And not only the climate change, I think because of this COVID situation that the country's economy has drastically affected by this pandemic situation. So in that respect, that the enhancement of the rural economy or the some contribution to the economy from the forest sector also will be very much important in the future years. So I think all these matters will be detailed discussed in the working groups as well as the consultation processes. So I think we will be able to get a lot of comments and the information in the coming events, consultation processes. So again, I am very much appreciated the large crowd. Large proportion of participants who has participated for this event, and I look forward their continuous support and the input in this master plan preparation work. And finally, I would like to thank World Bank as well as the SCAMP and Alexis as the consultant who has given big work done so far, and I look forward that the World Bank as well as the SCAMP will continue this support, and finally we will ended up with a very good master plan at the end of this next year, and in the June or July next year time, I think we will be able to get a very good product with this consultation and this all these consultation processes. So finally, I would like to thank Tilal and all the participants who has done this event a very successful event. So, and finally, I would like to say that we also have noted all these chat box comments, and we have noted those things. I think we will be able to include all those comments in the planning process. Okay. Thank you very much again to both secretaries and all the participants who have made this event a success. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
අප අවට ඇති පරිසර පද්ධතියක වටිනාකම මිල කරන්න බැරි තරම්.
අපි මේ වන විටත් තිරසාර සංවර්ධනය අපේ රටේ තහවුරු කිරීම සඳහා තමයි පරිසර පද්ධති සංරක්ෂණ හා කළමනාකරණ ව්‍යාපෘතිය හඳුන්වලා දීලා තියෙන්නේ.
පරිසර පද්ධති සංරක්ෂණය සහ කළමනාකරණ ව්‍යාපෘතිය සංරචක 4ක් ඔස්සේ ක්‍රියාත්මක වනවා. නියම භූදර්ශන සැලසුම් කිරීම සහ කළමනාකරණය, ස්වභාවික සම්පත් තිරසර ලෙස භාවිත කිරීම සහ අලිමිනි සහජීවනය ඇති කිරීම, රක්ෂිත ප්‍රදේශ කළමනාකරණය කිරීම සහ ආයතනික හැකියාවන් වර්ධනය කිරීම, ව්‍යාපෘතිය ක්‍රියාත්මක කිරීමට කළමනාකරණය සහ තාක්ෂණික සහාය ලබා දීම ආදියයි. ලෝකයේ දියුණු රටවල් දැන් සොබාදහම ආශ්‍රිත ජීවන ක්‍රම සහ පැවැත්ම ආදේශ කර ගැනීමට වෙහෙස දරමින් සිටිනවා. අන් බොහෝ දේශවල නොමැති ස්වභාවික සම්පත්ද පරිසර විභවයන්ද ජීවනෝපායන්ද අප සතුයි. ඒ නිසාම අපේ දේශයේ පරිසර පද්ධති ආරක්ෂා කර ගැනීම අප කාගෙත් වගකීමයි.